Elections in India are a force to reckon with. It's a country of 1 billion people, incredibly diverse. Every state has a different culture, even a different language. But Indians intermingle, intermarry, and yet they retain their unique ethnic identity and a collective national identity. To an outsider, this may all seem chaotic and complex, but to an Indian, this is our normal. And despite all of these distinctive qualities, India's elections are often always smooth and coordinated. Recently, 5 states from North, South and the Northeast went to polls. Incredible results. Different parties won in those states, different reasons, but one power of people. The right to express your vote as an Indian citizen. To achieve all of this is an incredible feat. And I thought such an aspect about India regularly organizing successful polls, giving power to the poor to decide, would actually receive praise. But. Notice how the friends in sections of international media just love to stir the pot when it comes to India's electoral system. The Time magazine says India's worsening democracy makes it an unreliable ally. BBC says downgrading of democracy. Al Jazeera says Indian elite and erosion of democracy. Some even in the Indian media sadly give platform to opinion columns like this. Weakening democracy needs electoral reforms. One of the world's largest democracies is being branded as a weakened democracy. But how? By people voting? The Congress party in Telangana state, the Bharatiya Janata Party in Madhya Pradesh state, and Zoram People's Movement in northeastern state of Mizoram. From what I know, non-democratic countries like China, North Korea, Syria or Afghanistan do not have vibrant, free multi-party systems like India does, and that difference does remain even today. Here is what you should know about India's electoral system. Election Commission data shows more than 900 million voters decide the government every 5 years. While in between, they also decide for their state, their local civic body elections. But this video is not just about non-stop election mode, which is successfully implemented across India on a regular basis. But there is another significant angle that I will talk about today. These elections have shown that marginalized groups in India are not ignored. They are not sidelined. They in fact decide the direction of the elections.
मेरे लिए देश में 4 जातियां ही सबसे बड़ी जातियां हैं। हमारी नारी शक्ति, हमारी युवा शक्ति, हमारे किसान और हमारे गरीब परिवार।
I was in Madhya Pradesh. It's an important state in central India with a whopping 230 assembly constituencies. And what I witnessed was incredible. Women after women, almost all from economically underprivileged sections, celebrating, dancing. And the man who won again, bowing to these women with hands folded, thanking them for their support. Shivraj Singh Chauhan acknowledged that women, young and old, are the reason Bharatiya Janata Party won in the state. Reasons? Welfare scheme, for example, 1. A certain amount is transferred each month to a woman's bank account. Small amount to an affluent person. But for these women who are otherwise homebound, uneducated, unable to earn, were able to run the house literally and feel financially independent. With that came a higher self-esteem and an opportunity to dream for themselves and their family. And they paid back with this thumping victory. India Today Access My India polls that very rightly and accurately reflected the predictions with regard to the results that eventually came. They also said that 50% women voted for the BJP because of different welfare schemes that helped them sustain the home both by centre and the state. Total electorate of women was around 2.72 crore voters, and they were the ones to make this decisive turn. Listen in to what some of these women had to say.
औरतों के बीच में इक्वलिटी आई है। अब वो भी घर में एक कमाने वाली है, उनके पास भी वो है, उनका हक है, वो जो चाहे वो कर सकती है।
You may think that to cast a vote is usual in most nations. This is no big deal. Not for India. This video is to remind you that a country as massive as India that it is power being held by people from these overlooked groups for elections. And this election has again shown that everyday heroes who struggle to otherwise make ends meet, if given an opportunity even of the slightest magnitude, with little political support too, they will contribute to the changing destiny of the politician and of the nation. Women now in India are increasingly deciding not to go by what the patriarch of the family decides about who to vote. She will vote for what helps her family and her dreams, and eventually to her community around her. In Chhattisgarh, again the women voter became an important factor. Similar to Bihar, for example, one demand that was for the liquor ban, because women felt alcohol is being overbought, overconsumed, for which money by men is being overspent and then resulting in violence at some of these homes. They voted en masse to a party they believed could implement this ban. Last time was the Congress party, this time the Bharatiya Janata Party. And similar to Madhya Pradesh, the welfare schemes and their promises even in Chhattisgarh to help a woman sustain her family and herself did work. And with that, also showing that women are not just a voting factor, but also in leading positions. Chhattisgarh now will have 8 women MLAs in the Bharatiya Janata Party and 11 MLAs from the Congress Party, in total 90-seat assembly. Women have not just matched but also surpassed men in electoral participation. 65.5% in 2014 national elections was the women turnout. By 2019, it went to 67% and is likely to touch a higher number in 2024 Lok Sabha polls too. They are beating their own impressive record and showing that they now have an increasing strong participation in elections. Staying with Chhattisgarh, it is also a tribal-dominated state. That is where it was another noticeable shift emerging. Tribal communities took center stage. Chhattisgarh constitutes 90 assembly constituencies, out of which 29 are scheduled tribes, including Bastar. Once a stronghold of Maoist left-wing extremism, today voted en masse. Tribals are rooted to nature and land. They have specific cultural beliefs, but they also face poverty, lack of development in the areas, and a concern of conversions of the tribals. Politicians who realized this and promised change were voted in. Note how the tribal outreach was a big strategy too. President Draupadi Murmu's elevation as the first tribal president was at the center of campaign for the Bharatiya Janata Party. So was a recent event where Prime Minister Modi went to Jharkhand to pay tribute to Bhagwan Birsa Munda, a tribal icon. Now these are tribal faces, even OBCs who are being considered as chief minister candidates for the state of Chhattisgarh. Northeast state of Mizoram, where ZPM won, constitutes 40 assembly constituencies. Listen carefully. Out of these 40 assembly constituencies, almost all are scheduled tribes. Only one seat is of the general category. Out of an electorate of 8.52 lakh, 4.39 lakh are women. So again here, the women voters and the tribal voters were the focus in elections too. In Rajasthan, apart from other issues, agriculture concerns dominated, which means focus now came on the farmers. Leaders pledged support, addressed the challenges. So after tribals, women, now farmers became a deciding factor. Of course, all of this should not only be about political tokenism. Well-deserved inclusion will be the key, and that needs to bring the real change in our society. Let's take a look at the southern state of Telangana, where the Congress party won. It is the youngest state of the country with 119 seats, and it shows a very interesting democratic behavior. Telangana, when it was a part of Andhra Pradesh earlier, had Telugu Desam party in power for a long time. Then the Congress party came for 10 years. Then BRS party of KCR ruled in Telangana for 10 years. Congress victory now shows that in a democracy, change is the only constant. People decide political establishment. And we hope that this will now help people in Telangana with a safer, secure and a more stable state. Collectively, these 5 states represent a substantial democratic force of almost 17 crore voters. And that's something to ponder upon of how they have decided different parties to vote as they think will do well for their state. As I conclude, criticism is always welcome, but show one nation as big as India, as diverse as India, as rising as India is, where free and fair elections have been the cornerstone of democracy. Religious identities, caste identities will always play a role in Indian politics. It has earlier, and we hope it reduces eventually. But these elections have also reminded us how social welfare, social justice are issues that can define, and people across communities can vote for one party collectively if it appeals to them. Constant electoral innovations from the ballot paper to the electronic voting machine shows that there are regular innovations that are taking place. Possibly because Election Commission of India is constantly in an election mode, and thereby they may be getting a lot of practice on how to ensure a successful election. My final word, India is not a weekend democracy. It's a democratic giant in action. A little reminder to friends in other countries and specifically in the Western nations or their narrative supporters within India. This is a celebration of India's diversity. Every corner of this country finds a representation in elections. Every individual has the power to vote as they want, contest elections as they want, and win if their people want them in leadership positions. This is not about praising one party or another, but a testament to the strength and vibrancy of a democracy. And the world would rather learn from us in this than look down at us with spin stories. This election is an illustration that India surely has underprivileged groups. Yes, I accept it. But these are also the groups that cannot be ignored in political discourse, not in 2023. Thank you for watching.